She triggered a trap, and the human shielded her with his body. But it was worth every pain. The hall was enormous. Light spilled through windows that stretched taller than the tallest towers on Earth. The walls shimmered with alien symbols that no human eye could fully understand. The air hummed with a quiet energy like the faint pulse of a living thing. And in the middle of it all stood a human. Alone, he looked ordinary, plain even. He had no shimmering exoskeleton, no glowing eyes, no claws or fangs. His clothes were simple, made of fabric that had been stitched by his own hands. He stood straight, calm, and somehow confident, despite being surrounded by creatures that could crush him without a thought. The Galactic Council had never seen anyone like him before. He was human, a species they considered weak. They had already laughed at the stories of humanity. Small, fragile, and unremarkable, humans were the punchline of every interstellar joke. Yet here he was, stepping into their chamber with nothing but his quiet dignity. The first to speak was Scifi, a creature with 6 limbs, a head like a crystal, and eyes that reflected all the colors of the council hall. Scifi's voice was like the sound of grinding metal. "So this is the famous human," it said, clicking its mandibles. "We have heard amusing tales. Tell me, small one, how do you survive without fangs, wings, or psychic shields?" The human's lips curved into a small smile. "We survive by learning, by helping each other. And by paying attention to everything around us," he said, his voice calm, clear, steady. The council erupted in laughter, a deep, echoing sound that bounced off the crystal walls. "Learning," hissed another alien, a tall serpentine being with scales that shimmered like oil in the sun. "We evolve, we conquer, we dominate, and you learn pathetic." The human did not flinch, he did not lower his gaze. He only looked around the hall, studying the other council members. He noticed the subtle hierarchies, who bowed to whom, who spoke over others, who waited for attention. Every gesture, every pause, every glance was a clue. A third alien, a floating hive of glowing nodes, pulsed angrily in the air. "You think humans can compete with our species? You with your fragile body and soft skin? You are nothing." "Perhaps," the human replied softly, "but nothing can be underestimated." The laughter grew louder. Some of the aliens leaned back, shaking with amusement. A few whispered among themselves, exchanging jokes about how humans must sleep 10 times a day to survive, how they could be crushed with a single claw, how their bones could be broken like dry twigs. And yet, despite all this mockery, the human did not seem angry. He did not seem afraid. If anything, he seemed calm, observant, calculating. The aliens, in their pride, failed to notice the tiny movements of his hands, the way his eyes moved from one alien to another, recording details. They did not see the quiet intensity in his posture, the patience that humans carried like armor. "You are fragile," Scifi said again, its voice sharp, cutting through the laughter. "You cannot fight, you cannot dominate, you cannot protect your species without our help." The human nodded slightly. "You are right, not now, but one day you will see." The council froze for a moment. One alien even leaned forward, its multiple eyes narrowing. "What do you mean? Speak clearly, human, or leave." He smiled again, a small, almost polite smile. "I mean that strength is not always what you think it is, and unity is not always visible at first glance." The council erupted again, this time in mocking applause. "Unity?" hissed the serpentine alien. "What are you, a storyteller, a poet? You think words and small tricks can protect you? Pathetic." The human's calm did not break. He simply stepped back, giving the council room to see him fully. "Perhaps to you it seems that way, but I promise one day you will understand." The aliens laughed once more. It was not a gentle laugh, but a cruel, condescending one. They did not see the truth hidden behind his quiet eyes. They did not notice that every gesture they made, every word they spoke, he recorded in his memory. Every flaw in their organization, every overconfidence, every moment of distraction, they would all be remembered. Then, without another word, the human turned. His walk was slow, measured, confident. Every step echoed in the hall. He did not rush. He did not stumble. And when he reached the exit, he paused for a moment. He did not look back, but his eyes swept over the council once more. A silent message. "Watch me. Remember me." He left, and the doors closed behind him with a soft hiss. The council remained, stunned for a moment by his composure. Then the laughter returned, though quieter this time. Some aliens still whispered among themselves. "He is fragile," they said. "He cannot survive alone. He will be back begging for help." But the human had already walked far from the council chamber. Out in the wider universe, he returned to his people, not with shame, not with fear, but with determination. Humans were not strong in the way the aliens expected. They had no claws, no psychic shields, no natural armor, but humans had something else. They had curiosity, creativity, and a remarkable ability to adapt. They had each other. Back on Earth, or on any human colony he had visited, he began to gather people quietly. Scientists, explorers, engineers, diplomats, artists. People who were clever, resilient, and willing to work together. He did not shout. He did not demand loyalty. He offered a vision, a future where humans could stand in the galaxy not as weaklings, but as something greater. Something united. He called it the Pack. Not in the way aliens understood a pack, not through dominance, aggression, or fear. Humans formed bonds of trust, shared purpose, and mutual respect. Every member mattered, every voice was heard, every skill was valued. It was a different kind of strength, invisible to the galaxy, but incredibly powerful. And as he worked, he trained them in ways the aliens could never imagine. Not fighting techniques or weapons, those were easy, but observation, strategy, cooperation, and adaptability. How to notice small details others miss. How to respond to crises without panic. How to turn disagreements into solutions. How to move as one without anyone giving orders. The council would never see it coming. They would continue to laugh. They would continue to mock. But humanity was quietly becoming something the galaxy had never expected. And one day the human promised himself the council would remember that laughter. Not with joy, not with amusement, but with awe, for now he trained, he watched, he planned. Every human he brought into the pack became part of a network of eyes and minds, each learning the strengths of the other. Alone, he had been fragile, but together, humans would become something else entirely, something that no alien species could ignore, something that could change the galaxy. And somewhere deep in his mind, the human smiled, not a cruel smile, not a boastful one, but a quiet, confident smile. One day, the laughter would end. And when it did, humanity would stand tall, and the council would finally see what strength truly meant. The sun rose slowly over the small settlement where the human had returned. Birds chirped, the wind rustled the leaves, and in the quiet morning light, humans moved about like tiny sparks of energy. It was ordinary to any visitor, but to the human, it was a place of potential. Every person here could contribute to the future he envisioned. Every mind, every hand, every heart could be part of the pack. He walked through the streets slowly, observing. There were engineers working on machines, children practicing their agility with sticks and stones, and storytellers sharing tales that taught lessons of courage, patience, and creativity. He watched them all carefully, noting their strengths, their weaknesses, their ways of thinking, and as he walked, he planned. The human knew that building a pack was not about forcing people to follow. It was about trust. It was about understanding each individual's abilities, fears, and hopes, and helping them become stronger together. He began with small exercises. He called a meeting of the first few humans he trusted completely. They gathered under a wide tree, its branches spreading like open arms. "Today," he began, "we start learning how to work as one, not because you have to, but because it will make all of us stronger. We will face challenges together, and each of you will grow because of the others." At first, the humans looked confused. They were used to solving problems individually. They were used to competition, not cooperation. But he smiled patiently and explained a simple task. "Each of you will pass water from one bucket to another across this field without spilling a drop. You cannot speak, you cannot run, you can only work together." The humans hesitated, some laughed, some frowned, but slowly they began moving. They watched each other's movements, adjusted their pace, and learned when to hand over a bucket and when to wait. At first, they spilled water, but as they practiced, they improved. By the end of the exercise, they could move water across the field without a single drop lost. The human nodded. "See, alone, we are fragile. Together, we are capable of things none of us could do by ourselves." He repeated these lessons in many forms. He set challenges that seemed impossible for a single human but achievable for a team. They built small structures, repaired machines, and even explored nearby forests for resources. Every task strengthened the bond between them. Every success reinforced the idea that no one person was more important than the group. It was not easy. There were arguments. There were moments of frustration and doubt. Some humans thought their ideas were better than others. Some were impatient. But the human taught them to listen, to compromise, and to see the strengths in others. Slowly, the pack formed. Slowly, the humans began moving as one. He also taught them observation. He taught them to notice patterns, to read subtle signs in the environment, and to anticipate problems before they appeared. Humans were not the fastest or the strongest species in the galaxy, but they had something else: curiosity. A drive to learn, to adapt, to improve. One day, he took the pack to the cliffs overlooking the sea. Waves crashed against the rocks below, sending sprays of mist into the air. "Look," he said. "What do you see?" The humans looked. Some saw only the waves. Some saw the cliffs, the rocks, the distant horizon, but he asked them to see more. "Watch the patterns of the waves, notice the wind, notice the birds, notice the currents. Every detail matters." At first it seemed tedious, but soon they began to see. They noticed how the waves moved in rhythm. They noticed how the wind could shift suddenly. They noticed signs of changes in the weather, and as they learned to observe, they began to anticipate. They began to prepare. They began to understand that strength was not just in muscle, but in knowledge and awareness. The human also taught them strategy. "A pack," he explained, "does not attack blindly. It moves together, it plans, it adapts. We do not dominate because we are stronger. We succeed because we understand each other and the world around us." To practice, he created simulations. They played games that required cooperation, planning, and foresight. One day, he set up a maze filled with obstacles. "Your goal is to get across without touching any obstacles," he explained. "You may not speak, you may not rush, you must work together silently." The humans struggled at first. They bumped into obstacles, argued quietly, and sometimes gave up. But with practice, they learned to move like a single organism. One human led for a moment, another followed, yet another adjusted the pace. Every success reinforced their confidence and trust in each other. This was the essence of humanity: adaptability and cooperation. And the human at the center of the pack watched, teaching subtly, guiding gently, allowing the pack to grow stronger on its own. He also emphasized care. "A pack is not just about achieving goals," he said. "It is about protecting each other. If one falls, we help them up. If one is scared, we reassure them. Strength is not in crushing others, but in lifting them." There were times when humans doubted themselves. "We are weak," one said. "The aliens will crush us if they discover our weaknesses." The human shook his head. "Weak, no. We are learning. The aliens see only strength as dominance, as power, but our strength is different. It is quiet, subtle, and invisible. That is why they laugh. They do not understand it yet." And so the pack continued to grow. More humans joined, drawn not by orders, but by the desire to belong, to contribute, to be part of something greater. Each human brought unique skills. Some were builders, some were thinkers, some were observers, some were artists. Together, they became more than the sum of their parts. The human also introduced new ways of thinking. He encouraged creativity. A pack that only follows rules becomes predictable. A pack that thinks, that imagines, becomes unstoppable. They practiced storytelling, problem-solving, improvisation. They learned to communicate silently through gestures, expressions, and subtle cues. They learned to anticipate each other's needs and movements. Slowly, they moved like one organism, each human aware of the others, each action reinforcing the collective strength. The first test came unexpectedly. A small alien probe passed near their settlement, scanning for resources. The pack noticed it immediately, not through weapons, but through observation. They saw patterns in its movements, predicted its path, and made subtle adjustments to avoid detection. By the time the probe returned to the council, the aliens reported nothing unusual. The human smiled. "They still think we are weak," he said. "They still laugh." But he knew that every moment of practice, every exercise, every lesson was preparing the pack for something greater. They would not rely on strength alone. They would rely on each other, on observation, on strategy, and on unity. That was their advantage. That was their power. And so the humans' pack continued to grow, quietly and visibly, yet irresistibly strong. Each member became aware of their role, their responsibility, and their potential. Each human learned that being part of a pack meant giving as much as they received. And the human at the center, calm, patient, observant, watched as the seeds of a new kind of power took root. A power the aliens could not understand. A power they would one day face. But for now, the pack was learning, growing, and moving as one. And the human, once laughed at, now smiled with quiet confidence. One day, the galaxy would notice. One day, the council would remember their laughter. And when that day came, they would see that humanity had become something no one expected. Something stronger because it was built not on dominance or fear, but on unity, trust, and the quiet, steady strength of people working together. And that day, the human thought would be glorious. The stars stretched across the sky like a silver river. The human stood at the edge of his ship's observation deck, looking out into the void. Beside him, the pack moved with quiet purpose, each member attending to their tasks, checking instruments, adjusting equipment, and sharing subtle signals with one another. To an outsider, it might look like chaos. To anyone who understood humans, it was precision. Months had passed since he had left the Galactic Council, months of quiet preparation, learning, and coordination. Every member of the pack had been trained not only to survive, but to thrive. They knew how to adapt, how to observe, how to respond. They had learned to trust each other in ways no alien species could imagine. "Are we ready?" asked Lyra, one of the engineers, her voice calm but excited. She adjusted a panel on the ship's navigation console. The human nodded. "As ready as we will ever be. Remember, this is not about fighting. It is about showing who we are. The Council expects weakness. We will show them strength in a way they cannot imagine." The pack had grown since the first exercises. What had started as a small group of humans under the wide tree had become a coordinated network of skilled individuals. There were navigators, problem solvers, communicators, observers, and planners. Each had a role, and each knew the roles of the others. They were not followers, and the human was not a commander in the way the aliens understood. He was the center, the steady point around which the pack moved naturally, without force or fear. As the ship entered the Council's sector, the aliens were already waiting. Scifi, the crystal-headed council member, floated above the council chamber, 6 limbs clicking in anticipation. The serpentine alien hissed quietly to the glowing hive, as if sharing a joke. "The human," it said, its tone mocking, "has returned. Alone, perhaps, or maybe with his weaklings. We shall see how easily they fail." The human landed with his pack. The chamber doors opened, revealing the council members in all their imposing forms. They had not expected him to return so soon. They had certainly not expected him to bring others. The first sound in the chamber was laughter, deep, mocking, confident laughter. It echoed off the walls, rolling over the humans like thunder. "Look at them," one alien cried. "Tiny, fragile things, and they dare return." But the human did not react. He stepped forward, calm, letting the pack fall into their positions naturally. Not a single member stepped out of line. Not a single human moved hastily or nervously. They formed a loose circle, not rigid but coordinated, like strands of a web that moved as one. The council stared. For the first time, some of the laughter faltered. The aliens could not place what they were seeing. The humans were small. They were fragile. And yet there was something in the way they moved that commanded attention. Scifi's mandibles clicked. "What is this?" it demanded. "Are these companions, friends? They will fall if challenged." The human's voice rang out, calm, measured, and clear. "We are humans. We are a pack. We do not follow because of fear. We follow because of trust. We are not weak and we are not alone. Together, we are more than any one of us could be." The council murmured among themselves. The serpentine alien's eyes narrowed. "More than one of you could be. You are small, fragile, and unarmed. What do you mean?" The human smiled. "You will see." He began a demonstration, not with weapons, not with force. He had prepared simulations and examples to show how the pack operated. "Observe," he said. "We will solve a challenge together. You will see the strength of cooperation." The humans moved and the aliens leaned forward. At first, the motions were subtle. Humans exchanged glances, gestures, and small signals. They moved in patterns the aliens could not predict. One human noticed a flaw in the council chamber's arrangement. Another adjusted the positioning of objects in response. Another anticipated a problem before it occurred. Every action was coordinated, every motion intentional, every movement contributing to the whole. The council's laughter stopped. Silence fell over the chamber. The glowing hive pulsed rapidly, a sign of confusion. Scifi tilted its crystal head, mandibles clicking. The serpentine alien hissed in disbelief. What are they doing?" The human's voice cut through the silence. "This is our strength. We do not dominate through force. We succeed through awareness, cooperation, and unity. What you see as weakness is actually our greatest advantage." A murmur spread among the council. Some whispered to each other. Some studied the humans more closely, trying to understand. The pack's movements were simple, almost natural, yet incredibly precise. Every human seemed to anticipate the other's thoughts, finishing tasks that others had started. They adapted instantly to small changes, correcting mistakes without panic or argument. The human continued. Each of us has a role, each of us watches the others, we learn from each other, we adapt together. Alone we may be weak, together we are unstoppable. The serpentine alien hissed angrily. Unstoppable? You are delusional, you are weaklings relying on tricks instead of strength. The human shook his head. Strength is not always measured by size or weapons. Strength is in coordination, understanding, and the ability to act as one. Observe carefully. He signaled subtly, and the humans began a second demonstration. They moved to simulate solving a complex problem. One group transported objects across the chamber, avoiding obstacles. Another group coordinated signals silently, guiding the first group without speaking. Another group adapted to unexpected changes, correcting paths, adjusting speed, and ensuring no errors occurred. The aliens were astonished. They had never seen anything like it. Their species relied on dominance, on hierarchy, on intimidation. The humans relied on something else entirely. They relied on each other. You are not like any species we know," whispered one of the council members. How can this be?" The human's voice was calm but firm. "We are humans. Our strength lies in unity. Our power is our ability to work together, to learn, to adapt. You saw me once and laughed. You dismissed us. But now you see what you could not see before. We are more than you imagine." The council was silent. Some aliens looked uncomfortable. Some tried to dismiss it as luck or coincidence. But the humans continued to demonstrate their coordination, their awareness, their ability to act as one. The hive pulsed faster, Sci-Fi clicked nervously, and the serpentine alien hissed in disbelief. The humans smiled slightly. "Do not laugh this time. Watch carefully. One day your laughter will end." The humans then performed a final demonstration. They simulated navigating a dangerous situation, a collapsing structure with obstacles. One human took the lead, but the others anticipated, supported, and adapted instantly. No instructions were needed. Every action was synchronized, precise, and deliberate. By the end of the simulation, every human had succeeded without a single mistake. The aliens were stunned. The council had expected weakness. They had expected fear. They had expected failure. Instead, they had witnessed something extraordinary. A group of humans, small and fragile by their standards, moving as one, solving problems, adapting, and succeeding where any single alien might have failed. Sci-Fi clicked its mandibles nervously. The serpentine alien hissed and recoiled. The hive pulsed, confused, unsure how to react. For the first time, the council did not know what to say. The humans spoke quietly, but the words carried across the chamber. "This is what you could not understand when you laughed at me. Humans are not strong alone, but together we are a force you cannot ignore. We do not need fangs, armor, or psychic power. We have each other, and that is more than enough." A silence settled over the council. The laughter was gone. The mockery had vanished. The aliens realized that they had underestimated humanity. They had dismissed the human because he had seemed small, ordinary, and weak. But now they understood that humans had a strength no one had predicted, and the human, at the center of the pack, simply stood. Calm, confident, unshaken. The pack moved around him naturally, responding to each other without instruction. They were not intimidating in the traditional sense. They were something far more dangerous, unified, aware, adaptable, and unstoppable in ways the aliens could not yet comprehend. For the first time, the council realized they had made a mistake. They had laughed at humanity. They had dismissed the human. And now they were witnessing a power they had never expected. The human's eyes swept across the chamber. He did not gloat. He did not taunt. He simply observed, as he always did, noting every reaction, every hesitation, every sign of understanding or fear. The galaxy had laughed at him once, but that laughter would not last forever, and the pack, his human pack, was ready for whatever came next. The council chamber was quieter than it had ever been. The laughter that once filled the air had been replaced by a tense curiosity. The aliens, who had prided themselves on dominance, intelligence, and strength, now faced something entirely unexpected. A human and his pack moving with precision, unity, and quiet authority. Sci-Fi's crystal head tilted, mandibles clicking nervously. You claim to be an alpha, it said finally, its voice sharp. But you have no fangs, no claws, no armor, you command no psychic force. How can you be a leader? The human did not flinch. He did not raise his voice. He looked at the council calmly, then at his pack. Leadership, he said, is not about intimidation. It is about responsibility. An alpha is not the one who dominates. An alpha is the one who ensures the survival and success of the pack. The serpentine alien hissed angrily. And how do you ensure survival without strength? Without fear, you are tiny, you are fragile, you will fail if challenged. The human smiled faintly. We do not rely on fear, we rely on trust. Every member of the pack knows their role, their responsibility, and their potential. I guide, but I do not control, I do not demand. I support, I observe, I ensure that everyone has the tools they need to succeed. A glowing member of the council, the hive of pulsing nodes, buzzed uncertainly. But without dominance, how do you maintain order? How do you prevent chaos? The human gestured to his pack. Order is not maintained by fear. It is maintained by cooperation, respect, and communication. We work together because we want to, because we trust each other, and because we understand that our survival depends on it. Some aliens whispered to each other. The serpentine alien's eyes narrowed. This is impossible. Leadership cannot exist without control. Dominance is required. The human shook his head. Control is temporary. Dominance can be broken. Trust, understanding, and unity, these are permanent. They are the foundation of a pack that endures. To prove his point, he asked the pack to perform a demonstration. The humans moved silently and efficiently, solving a complex problem without speaking. Obstacles were detected and avoided. Mistakes were corrected instantly. Every member supported the others. One human fell in the simulation, and the others adjusted immediately, ensuring the task was completed successfully. The council observed, stunned. The hive pulsed rapidly, Scifi clicked its mandibles, and the serpentine alien hissed in disbelief. Leadership had never looked like this to them. Strength had never looked like this, yet here it was, undeniable and visible. The human spoke again, his voice calm and deliberate. This is leadership without fear. This is alpha without fangs. I guide the pack not by intimidation, but by responsibility. I take blame when things go wrong. I share credit when things go right. I ensure that everyone is heard, valued, and protected. The council was silent. They had never seen leadership defined this way. They had never imagined that a leader could be respected, followed, and trusted without threats or force. Yet the humans demonstrated it clearly, step by step, action by action. One of the younger humans stepped forward, explaining a subtle adjustment in their coordination. Another added how they anticipated a problem before it occurred. The aliens watched in disbelief as every human spoke calmly, logically, and without argument, yet each contribution strengthened the demonstration of leadership. The serpentine alien hissed. This is unnatural. Leadership cannot exist without dominance. You cannot be alpha, the human shook his head gently. Dominance is a narrow view of strength. Leadership is not about showing power. It is about creating an environment where everyone can succeed. The alpha is the one the pack trusts, not the one the pack fears. The alpha is not the strongest, but the one who ensures the strength of all. The hive pulsed erratically, Scifi tilted its head, and even the serpentine alien paused, unsure how to respond. They had assumed leadership could only be achieved through intimidation or power. They had assumed dominance was the only way to unite a group, and now they faced evidence that these assumptions were wrong. The human continued. Watch us. We will navigate a challenge together. He signaled subtly, and the pack moved with silent precision. Obstacles appeared, situations changed, and yet the humans adapted instantly. No panic, no hesitation. Every human supported the others. Every action was coordinated, every problem solved. When the demonstration ended, the humans stood calmly, not triumphant, not boastful. Just steady, confident, and prepared. The council was quiet, stunned by the sheer effectiveness of the pack. Leadership had never looked like this. Alpha status had never been displayed in such a way. Finally, Scifi spoke, its voice tinged with reluctant respect. You lead without fear, you command without dominance. This is unlike anything we have seen. The human nodded. It is the way humans lead. We rely on trust, understanding, and unity. We do not intimidate, we do not coerce. We ensure that everyone in the pack grows stronger together. The serpentine alien hissed softly, almost to itself. And yet they succeed. They are small, fragile, yet they succeed. How? The human smiled slightly. Because we work together, because we adapt, because we trust. Alpha is not about being the strongest. Alpha is about making everyone stronger. That is our way. That is our strength. That is humanity. A silence fell over the council. They could no longer dismiss the human or his pack. They could no longer rely on assumptions or laughter. Leadership had been redefined before their eyes. Strength had been redefined. And for the first time, the council realized that they had underestimated humanity. The human's eyes swept across the chamber. Calm, observant, confident, he did not need to boast. He did not need to threaten. His pack, his humans, moved naturally, silently, and efficiently. Together, they displayed a force no alien could match with intimidation alone. And in that moment, the council understood that the galaxy had changed. The human, once laughed at, once dismissed, now demonstrated something more powerful than any weapon, more formidable than any psychic ability, more enduring than any armor. The Alpha without fangs had arrived.